Henry Whitmore, a self-made millionaire, returned home earlier than expected after a long business trip. He wanted to surprise his 7-year-old twin daughters, Emma and Grace. The mansion was quiet, except for soft giggles echoing from the living room. Henry tiptoed closer, but what he saw stopped him cold. There, on the marble floor, his maid, Clara, sat cross-legged with the twins around her. She wasn't teaching them piano or ballet, like their expensive tutors usually did. Instead, she was showing them how to fold scraps of paper into little hearts. Each heart, Clara whispered, is a promise. A promise to be kind, to share, and to never let anyone feel alone. The girl's eyes sparkled. We'll make 100 hearts, so no one ever feels lonely. Grace said proudly. Henry felt a lump rise in his throat. He had given his daughters the world, castles of toys, vacations abroad, endless luxuries. But here was Clara, a woman who earned modest wages, teaching them something priceless, humanity. He stepped into the room, unable to hide his emotion. The twins ran to him, showing off their paper hearts. Clara looked startled, almost embarrassed, but Henry pulled her aside. "You've given my daughters something I never could," he said softly. "Thank you." At that moment, Henry realized true wealth wasn't measured in money, but in the values we pass on. And for the first time in years, the mansion felt like home. The next morning, Henry couldn't shake the image of his daughters folding paper hearts with Clara. At breakfast, Emma placed one beside his coffee mug. On it, written in shaky handwriting, were the words, "Daddy, be kind today." Henry froze again. His board meetings usually meant cutting deals, chasing profits, and leaving little room for kindness. Yet here was his daughter, reminding him of something he had long forgotten. Clara entered quietly, ready to clear the dishes. "Clara," Henry said suddenly, "where did you learn this tradition?" Her cheeks flushed. "From my grandmother. She used to say, a house filled with love is richer than any palace of gold. When I saw the girls feeling lonely, I thought maybe paper hearts could help." Henry's chest tightened. He remembered how his late wife used to say something similar before her illness took her away. Later that day, Henry carried one of the paper hearts into his office. During a heated negotiation, he found himself softening. Instead of pushing ruthlessly, he proposed a fairer deal. His client was stunned, but grateful. That night, he told Clara, "Your lesson reached me too." But Clara shook her head. "It's not my lesson, sir. It's theirs. Children listen with their hearts. We adults sometimes forget." Henry glanced at Emma and Grace, asleep on the couch, paper hearts scattered around them like treasures. He realized he had spent years building empires, yet his daughters were teaching him, through Clara, that the real empire was love. And this was only the beginning. A week later, Henry returned home earlier than usual, something his staff barely recognized. He found the twins in the garden, laughing as Clara helped them plant tiny flower seeds in mismatched pots. Their small hands were covered in dirt, their faces glowing with joy. "Daddy!" Emma shouted, holding up a seed packet. "Clara says we're planting hope." "Hope?" Henry asked, raising a brow. Grace chimed in, "Yes. If we take care of these flowers, they'll grow and make the world more beautiful. Just like kindness grows." Henry stood silent, his throat tightening. Clara caught his gaze but quickly looked down, brushing soil from her apron. He could tell she worried about overstepping. But instead of being upset, he felt a strange warmth. That evening, Henry joined them. He knelt beside the girls, his tailored suit brushing the grass. For the first time in years, he planted something, not a business venture, but seeds of life. Later, as he tucked the girls into bed, they whispered, "Daddy, you're smiling more now." Henry kissed their foreheads, whispering, "Because I'm learning from the best teachers." Downstairs, he found Clara cleaning quietly. You've given them more than nannies and tutors ever could, he admitted. And you've reminded me of the man I used to be before money changed me. Clara's eyes softened, but she said only, children need presents, not just presents, sir. Henry lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling. For years he thought success was his empire. But now, he wondered if maybe his greatest empire was just two little girls, and the lessons they were learning through kindness. One rainy afternoon, Henry came home to the sound of laughter echoing from the library. Curious, he peeked inside. Clara sat with Emma and Grace, reading aloud from an old, worn storybook. The girls leaned in close, hanging on every word. But this wasn't a fairy tale. Clara was telling them about her childhood, how her family had struggled, how her mother worked long hours, and how a neighbor once left food at their door when they had nothing. Grace frowned. That must have been so hard. Clara smiled gently. Yes. But it also taught me something. Even when you don't have much, you can still give love. And that's enough. Henry stepped into the room, his voice softer than usual. And that's the greatest story of all. The girls squealed, running into his arms. Clara rose quickly, embarrassed to be caught speaking so openly. But Henry stopped her. Clara, he said, you've given them something I couldn't buy with all my money, perspective. They're learning gratitude. That night, over dinner, Emma placed another paper heart on Henry's plate. This one read, Daddy, today I learned we can help even if we don't have much. Henry stared at the note, his heart aching. His empire had taught him to take, to compete, to win. Yet here, his daughters were learning the opposite, to give, to share, to love. Later, as rain tapped against the windows, Henry whispered a promise to himself, he wouldn't just be a provider. He would be present. And he would make sure his empire didn't only build wealth, but also kindness. Weeks passed, and Henry's mansion began to feel different. The walls echoed less with silence and more with laughter. Paper hearts decorated the refrigerator, flower pots lined the windows, and evenings were filled with stories instead of emails. One evening, the girls gathered everyone in the living room, Henry, Clara, and even the cook and driver. Emma held up a jar filled with folded paper hearts. This is our kindness jar, she announced proudly. Every time someone does something kind, we write it down and add it in. Grace added, when the jar is full, we'll read them all together. Henry felt his eyes sting. He had boardrooms, investments, and skyscrapers, but this little jar meant more to him than all of it. When the twins went to bed, Henry pulled Clara aside. I used to think I was teaching them how to live. But the truth is, they, and you, are teaching me. Clara looked down, touched yet unsure what to say. Henry continued, his voice steady, from now on, my empire won't just chase profit. We'll start programs, scholarships, food drives, shelters. And it's because of what you've shown my daughters. For the first time, Clara met his gaze with a tearful smile. That night, Henry added his own note to the jar, Daddy learned kindness is the greatest wealth. When Emma found it the next morning, she hugged him tight. See, Daddy? You're learning too. Henry laughed, his heart lighter than it had been in years. The millionaire had come home without notice, but he found something priceless waiting for him, a family bound not by riches, but by love. And in that moment, Henry knew, he was finally rich in the ways that truly mattered.